Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Elegy for Martin Luther King Jr., presented by Mercer University and Mercer's beloved community symposium. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Anita Gustafson, Dean of Mercer's College of Liberal Arts.
My name is Anita Gustafson, and I am happy on behalf of President Bill Underwood and the faculty, staff, students, and administration of Mercer University. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Elegy for Martin Luther King Jr. We are in for a treat tonight. I want to thank the organizing committee led by Dr. John Dunaway and would ask that they stand to be recognized, please. To recognize the delegation from the French consulate in Atlanta. Would you please stand? We are also honored to have the Consul General of Canada, Nadia Theodore, and her husband Eric Musamba and their 5-year-old daughter Ariana here tonight. If you would please stand. I would like to recognize the members of the beloved community paired clergy, as well as the Mayor's Council of Clergy. If all of you would please stand. I would also like to recognize Mayor Robert Rickert and other elected officials who may be present. If you would please stand. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Julius E. Coles, who is the director of Morehouse College's Andrew Young Center for International Affairs. He is the former president of AfriCare and served as the director of Howard University's Ralph Bunche International Affairs Center. Mr. Coles has a distinguished career in the Foreign Service, working as a senior official with the United States Agency for International Development. His assignments included Swaziland, Senegal, Vietnam, Morocco, Liberia, Nepal, and Washington, D.C. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Julius E. Coles.
Thank you very much, Dean Gustafson. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight in Macon. I must confess that this is my first time, even though I'm a native Georgian, to come to Macon, and I'm saying that I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. I want to bring you special greetings from the President of Senegal, President Macky Sall, and his ambassador to Washington, Boubacar Diani, and special greetings from the people of Senegal to the people living in Macon. Some of you may know that Senegal is a wonderful, beautiful country on the west coast of Africa. In fact, Senegal is the closest country on the African continent to the Americas. And so there's always been a very special relationship between Senegal and the people of America. One of the earliest consul generals that was established on the African continent was established on the island of Gorée, which is off the coast of Senegal and is a part of Senegal. And Gorée is also known historically for something else very special. It is the island that was used as a transshipment point for slaves coming to the Americas. So the island of Gorée has very special significance. And that is something very special to African Americans, because those who have the opportunity to go to Senegal and visit Gorée and the Maison des Slaves is always a very special and a very emotional experience. It is very special tonight for me to be here because we are also honoring two great people. One, the former president of Senegal, Leopold Sedar Senghor. Some people say, well, who was this individual? Leopold Sedar Senghor was perhaps one of the greatest African intellectuals that has ever been known on the African continent. Very interesting enough, there are some similarities between Martin Luther King and Senghor. Senghor went to seminary to become a priest in the Catholic Church, but later decided that that was not his calling. We know that Martin became a minister. Senghor was also nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature. He was the first African writer to be so honored. Even though he did not receive the prize, it was an honor for him to be nominated for such a noble honor in his life. And we know that Martin was the person who did get a Nobel Prize. And then Senghor is also known for his poetry. Interesting enough, Senghor was in the French army and was captured by the Germans and was put in prison for 2 years. And while he was in prison, he began writing poetry. And that poetry stuck with him for the rest of his life. And he became, while he was in Paris, a leader of a very special movement called the Négritude movement. And what is the Négritude movement? It is a special movement of writers from the Caribbean and also from South America who wrote about the attributes of being an African and being proud of being an African and giving the special qualities of people of color in the African region. It was not a racist movement. It was a movement to bring people of all races together. So when I think about King and what he stood for, I also think about Senghor and what he stood for. And tonight I think you're in for a very special pleasure because you will hear about the poem that Senghor dedicated to Martin Luther King. Thank you again for the honor of being here. Tomorrow night I will be a speaker at Mercer University talking about my life and living in the civil rights movement when I was a student at Morehouse College in the 1960s. I hope that some of you will be able to come to that lecture. Again, thank you again and enjoy the evening. You're in for a fantastic experience. Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Coles has talked about somewhat about the similarities between these two great writers, intellectuals, and leaders in social justice. I want to add that both of these men were Christians who worked for social justice in two different continents. In fact, Mr. Coles tells me that Leopold Sedar Senghor was actually given an honorary doctorate at Morehouse College back in the 60s. When I traveled to Senegal in 2008 with Mercer on a Mission group, that was when I discovered this poem that he wrote in honor of King. This was right after King was assassinated. And I learned that it was supposed to be read with a jazz piece. It says for jazz orchestra. Well, we were not able to find this jazz piece. Nobody knew that one existed. And so we went to the School of Music at Mercer and we found a composer, Dr. Christopher Schmitz, jumped right on this project and has written an original jazz composition to accompany the poem. And tonight you're going to hear the world premiere of that piece of music. It's going to be performed by the Mercer Jazz Ensemble, and I know you'll be pleased to hear their masterful rendition of this piece, along with African dance by the Hayiya Dance Theatre, as well as song being sung by the Otis Redding Foundation Dream Choir. And we'll be hearing a wonderful dramatic reading by Mr. Michael Scott from Central High School, who is also a Mercer Master's graduate, reading the poem dramatically along with the music. I know this is going to be a rich blend of creative talents and arts to celebrate the spirit that animated both Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Leopold Sedar Senghor. I want to thank Mercer University, the President William Underwood, Macon Deb Mayor Robert Rickert, and the organizing committee, and all these wonderfully talented people who lent their talents to this production. Let's celebrate the spirit of peace, peacemaking, and reconciliation that animated King and Senghor. And before we start the arts, the dance and the music and so forth, Mr. Scott and I want to give you just a little taste of the original French poem. Since I'm a French professor, we had to sneak in just a little bit of French, right? So Michael is going to read a line in English, and I'm going to read following him in French for you. Michael?
The white man looks hard and precise as steel.
Le blanc regarde, dur et précis comme l'acier.
James Earl aims and hits the mark.
James Earl vise et fait mouche.
Shoots Martin, who withers like a fragrant flower and falls.
Touche Martin, qui s'affaisse en avant, comme une fleur odorante qui tombe.
My brother, praise his name clearly. May our bones exult in the resurrection.
Mon frère, chantez clair son nom, que nos os exultent dans la résurrection.
As the reverend's heart evaporated like incense, and his soul flew like a diaphanous rising dove.
Cependant que s'évaporait comme l'encensoir le cœur du pasteur, et que son âme s'envolait, colombe diaphane qui monte.
I heard behind my left ear the slow beating of the drum.
Voilà que j'entendis, derrière mon oreille gauche, le battement lent du tantang.
The voice in its sharp breath close to my cheek said, "Take up your pen and write, son of the lion."
La voix me dit, et son souffle rasait ma joue, écris et prends ta plume, fils du lion.
And I saw a vision.
Et je vis une vision.
It was in summer on the southern mountains, as in Futa Jalon, in the mildness of tamarind trees.
Or, c'était en belle saison sur les montagnes du sud, comme du Futa Jalon, dans la douceur des tamariniers.
And on a hill rock was seated the being who is all force, glimmering like a black diamond.
Et sur un tertre siégeait l'être qui est force, rayonnant comme un diamant noir.
His beard let roll the splendor of comets.
Sa barbe déroulait la splendeur des comètes.
And his feet, under blue shadow, the streams of white honey and cool fragrances of peace.
Et à ses pieds, sous les ombrages bleus, des ruisseaux de miel blanc, de frais parfums de paix.
Then I recognized, around his perfect goodness, the elect, black and white mixed together.
Alors, je reconnus, autour de sa justice, sa bonté, confondus, les élus, et les noirs et les blancs.
All those for whom Martin had prayed.
Tous ceux pour qui Martin Luther avait prié.
Mix them so, Lord, beneath your eyes and white beard.
Confonds-les donc, Seigneur, sous tes yeux, sous ta barbe blanche.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now welcome to the stage the Hayiya African Dance Theatre under the direction of Ms. G. Pilar Wilder Lowden. Ladies and gentlemen, the following original jazz composition was composed by Dr. Christopher Schmitz, featuring the Mercer University Jazz Ensemble under the direction of Dr. Monty Cole.
4th of April, 1968. A spring evening in a gray neighborhood, a district smelling of garbage mud where children played in the streets in spring. And spring blossomed in the dark courtyards where blue murmuring streams played a song of nightingales in the ghetto night of hearts. Martin Luther King chose them, the motel, the district, the garbage and street sweepers with the eyes of his heart in those spring days, those days of passion, wherever the mud of flesh would have been glorified in the light of Christ. It was the evening when light is clearest and air sweetest. Dusk at that heart's hour, and its flowering of secrets, mouth to mouth, of organ and of hymns and incense. On the balcony now hollowed in crimson, where the air is more limpid, Martin Luther stands speaking pastor to pastor. My brother, do not forget to praise Christ in his resurrection, and let his name be praised. And now opposite him, in a house of prostitution, profanation, and perdition. Yes, in the Lorraine Motel, Lorraine, Joan, the white and blue woman, let our mouths purify you like rising incense. In that evil house of tomcats and pimps, a man stands up, a Remington rifle in his hands. James Earl Ray sees the Reverend Martin Luther King. Through his telescopic sight, sees the death of Christ. My brother, do not forget to magnify Christ in his resurrection this evening. Sent by Judas, he watches him. For we have made the poor into wolves of the poor. He looks through his telescopic sight, sees only the tender, neck so black and beautiful. He hates this golden voice modulating the angel's flutes, the voice of bronze trombone that thunders on the terrible solemn and on Alma. Martin looks ahead at the house in front. He sees the skyscrapers of ice and glass. He sees curly, blonde heads, dark, kiki heads, full of dreams like mysterious orchids. And the blue lips, and those roses sing in a chorus like a harmonious organ. The white man looks hard and precise as steel. James Earl aims and hits the mark, shoots Martin, who withers like a fragrant flower and falls. My brother, praise his name clearly. May our bones exult in the resurrection. The Reverend's heart evaporated like incense, and his soul flew like a diaphanous rising dove. I heard behind my left ear the slow beating of the drum. The voice and its sharp breath close to my cheek said, "Take up your pen and write, son of the lion." And I saw a vision. It was in summer on the southern mountains, as in Futa Jalon, in the mildness of tamarind trees. And on a hillock was seated at the being who is all force, glimmering like a black diamond. His beard let roll the splendor of comets, and at his feet, under blue shadows, the streams of white honey and cool fragrances of peace. Then I recognized, around his perfect goodness, the elect, black and white mixed together, all those for whom Martin had prayed. Mix them so, Lord, beneath your eyes and white beard. The middle class with the peaceful farmers, cane cutters and cotton pickers, laborers with feverish hands, and they will make the factories roar, and the evenings get drunk from bitterness, whites and blacks, all sons of the same Mother Earth. And they sing in several voices, singing Hosanna, hallelujah, as in the long ago childhood kingdom when I would dream. They sang of the innocence of the world, and they danced the flowering dance, the rhythmic forces who measured the force of forces justice gained, which is bountiful beauty. And the syncopated tapping of their feet was a black and white symphony that pressed the flowers, crushed the grapes for the marriage of souls, the only sun with a myriad of stars. I saw all this. I saw George Washington and Phyllis Wheatley, mouth of bronze, announcing freedom. Her song consumed her. And Benjamin Franklin and the Marquis de Lafayette in his crystal wreath. Abraham Lincoln, who gave his blood to America like a life-giving drink. I saw Booker T. Washington, the patient one, and William E. B. Du Bois, the untamable, who left to plant his tomb in New Galicia. I heard the blues of voices of Langston Hughes, young as Armstrong's trumpet. Turning around, I saw John F. Kennedy, and more handsome than the people's dream, and his brother, Robert, armored in fine steel. And I saw, let me sing, all the just and the good, which the cyclone of destiny had laid to rest, and they were standing in the name of the poet's voice, like tall, slender trees lining the way. And in the midst of them was Martin Luther King. I sing of Malcolm X, the red angel of our night. And through Angela's eyes, sing of George Jackson, shining like love without wings or arrows, but not without torment. I sing with my brother. Rise up, negritude, a white hand in his living hand. I sing of transparent America, where light is a polyphony of colors. I sing of a paradise of peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back to the stage the Hayiya African Dance Theatre.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chester J. Fontenot, Jr.
When Thomas Dorsey wrote the gospel song, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," he couldn't have imagined that it would become one of the most famous of all gospel songs. Born in Villa Rica, Georgia in 1899, Dorsey had been steeped in the Black Baptist Church since his father was a minister and his mother a piano teacher. And after studying music in Chicago, becoming a professional musician, agent, and band leader for blues and jazz artists, Dorsey wrote more than 400 blues and jazz songs and became known as Georgia Tom. In the mid-1920s, Dorsey began to write religious songs that deviated from both the standard hymns and what in the Black Baptist Church were called the Doc Watts line hymns. Instead of emphasizing the individual within the context of the group of believers, Dorsey used the Black spiritual's emphasis on the person in relation to God, or what theologians call personalism. And while doing this, he created a new musical form by fusing the blues and spirituals with the improvisational nature of jazz. This new form became known as the Gospels, and Dorsey was heralded as the father of gospel music. In 1932, while preparing to drive home from St. Louis, where he had gone to promote his songs, Dorsey sent a postcard to his wife, Nettie. It read, "Dear Nettie, oh dear, I'm having a pretty good time and success. I'll be home about the last of the week. Take care of yourself and be sweet." But before he could make it back home, Nettie, who was 24 years old, died in childbirth, followed by the death 2 days later of his newborn son. Dorsey told his biographer, Michael W. Harris, "But I became so lonely, I did not feel that I could go on alone." This unimaginable tragedy led Dorsey, at the urging of his church sisters, to reach out in lyrical prayer to the God of his ancestors, to his precious Lord. Dorsey followed their counsel and wrote the song, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," as a cry out to his maker to help him fight his depression. And by the time that Dr. King had become the undisputed leader of the civil rights movement in Alabama and throughout the South, Dorsey's song had become one of the most often sung songs in black churches. Faced with more than 200 daily death threats by white supremacists, hounded by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, criticized by white liberals who felt that Dr. King was moving too fast to try to achieve racial equality and integration, maligned even by many ministers and lay people of his own denomination, the National Baptist Convention, and worried that his activism had placed his wife and children in harm's way. It is no wonder that he found peace and strength in hearing this song, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." In fact, it became his favorite song. Dr. King asked that someone with a powerful voice sing this song whenever he spoke, and the great gospel singer Mahalia Jackson accompanied him and sang this song as he traveled throughout the South and the country, generating support for the civil rights movement. In fact, she sang it at the March on Washington. By his request, even at his funeral, Mahalia Jackson said that when her own demanding travel and concert schedule prohibited her from being at his side, Dr. King would call her, sometimes late at night, and ask her to sing, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," so that he could hear from heaven. The Otis Redding Foundation Youth Choir, directed by my spiritual sister, Renee Bumpus, will now render this powerful gospel song and allow all of us to hear from heaven as a tribute to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
We now welcome to the stage the Otis Redding Foundation Dream Choir under the direction of Ms. Renee Bumpus.
Take my hand, lead me on, and let me stand. I am tired, and I am weak, and I
Ladies and gentlemen, this completes the formal portion of our program, but the celebration continues.
Thank you.